Greetings, respected Bante. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our weekly Awakening Friends Gathering. Today, we are going to begin our session by grounding ourselves into the present moment through a simple, mindful activity. I would like to invite everyone to bring a glass of water and settle into a comfortable position. Let's take a minute or two to arrive here fully. And we will begin our mindful activity together with the Bante's guidance. For those who have arrived later, I was inviting everyone to bring a glass of water to join a simple mindful activity, right? Now, with the deep respect and gratitude, I would like to invite Bante to guide us through this mindful activity.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So today, instead of walking and sitting practice, we have an activity, mindful activity. We do these things every day. So it's good to, practice mindfulness in them. I hope all of you have a glass of water with you now. And it would be nice if you can turn on video and show yourself participating in the activity. What are we going to do? We are going to drink a glass of water mindfully, simply being present with the process. That's the whole idea. Now, let's say when you do walking and sitting, you have a primary object. Let it be the steps, let it be the breathing. That way you select a primary object in the walking and sitting. But in daily activities, you have to figure out the prominent sensations according to each and every activity. That's how we prioritize ourselves. We pay attention to the activity at hand and see what are the prominent details. That's what we are going to do. So let's say drinking a glass of water. That's a simple activity that we do many times a day. And while doing it, we have our attention. Maybe we are thinking about something. We are planning something. That way we do these type of things. So today with a glass of water, we try to bring our attention to the activity, ground ourselves in the task at hand. That's what we are going to do. So all of you, I hope you have a glass of water with you. And simply, let's take it to our hand. Now, when you're holding a glass, probably like this, you can feel the pressure points. In what way are you holding the glass, right? And you feel the force in your hand, and you can feel the texture, temperature of the glass. For example, this one, it feels hot. Yes. So the texture, temperature, you can feel, right? So simply holding the glass, know that you're holding. For a moment, bring your attention to the palm, bring your attention to the fingertips, right? Then let's take a sip. Maybe there's no smell, preferably when it comes to water. And you can simply take a sip. And when you do that, you can feel the temperature in your mouth. And when you're swallowing, you can feel that. Then when it comes to water, no taste is the best. Water doesn't supposed to taste, right? So that's what we feel. Again, another sip. Now I'll keep my silence and you can simply enjoy few sips of water, noticing the process. For a change, you can simply smell the water and see whether there is any smell. And if the water is hot or cold, then you can feel it against your face, the temperature differences, the steam. Yes, so that's the simple activity. We do many such things in our daily life. The whole idea is simply to bring your attention to the present moment and be grounded in the activity. If you have any observations, any comments to add, you are welcome. Otherwise, we can move forward.
Ante, let's move forward and keep the invitation open for the discussion session if anyone is willing to share their experiences. So again, thank you so much, Bante, for guiding us through that simple but very mindful activity. We are going to move on to our next session of the day. We will be reading again from the Numerical Discourses of the Buddha, translated by Bhikkhu Bodhi. And we are referring to the second discourse titled Abandoning the Hindrances. And today we will be reading the 15th paragraph of page 91. I would like to invite Chaturya to read the passage aloud for us today, and I also would like to respectfully invite Bante to lead us in this discussion. Over to you, Chaturya.
Thank you, Kalpani. Homage to the Blessed One, the Arahat, the perfectly enlightened one. Bhikkhus, I do not see even one other thing on account of which unarisen doubt arises and arisen doubt increases and expands so much as careless attention. For one who attends carelessly, unarisen doubt arises, and arisen doubt increases and expands.
Okay, so that's the selected discourse for today. We are on the second chapter and it's the 15th discourse. Right, so this one, it talks about another hindrance of the mind. And this is very common in this world, doubting. Yes, doubt is there, and not only in the path of Dhamma, but even in our daily encounters. This becomes a real hindrance. We doubt many occasions, and that very doubting can lead us to miss on life. We don't get to, enjoy the life. We don't get to, seek the opportunities that we get. Instead, we keep doubting, thinking about various scenarios. So these things happen, right? So that's the very first idea, whether it's your practice or whether it's your daily encounters. This process of doubting or questioning, thinking too much, these things can become a real hindrance. Especially in this world, a lot of thinking happens. Thinking is encouraged. Questioning is encouraged. That's how we have developed ourselves. We try to think many possible outcomes. We try to think, plan situations. We try to question situations. So that way it feels like knowledge. That's the thing. It feels like knowledge. If it feels like you are doing something important. But in the process, what happens is that you don't get to live your life. You are in your mind thinking, doubting, questioning. And the moment passes. That happens quite often. And you can see how people miss out on life due to these thought processes. So when you go to school, when you go deal with your teachers, when you deal with your parents, when you deal with the society in your childhood, you are encouraged to question. You are encouraged to doubt. You are encouraged to think. That's how we have grown. But that very same encouragement at a certain point might become a hindrance to your life. We can simply say thinking is overrated. We have to think. We can use thinking as a tool, but don't let it become the master of your mind. That's the whole idea. If you let it become the master of your mind, then that very process won't lead you towards any good. It's our ability. We have a good brain, high capacity than the other animals. We are able to analyze, think. The forebrain is in action, right? So it feels like knowledge. We have a sharp tool with us. The ability to think, ability to doubt, ability to question, ability to create new things, right? It's a sharp tool. But when a sharp tool is given to a monkey, what happens is that they end up cutting themselves. Not only cutting themselves, even cutting others, right? So that happens. So it's a sharp tool. We have high capacity to think, but that very tool has become destructive for many people, right? That's the reality in this world, especially in this new age. You get a lot of information. You have many situations. You deal with many people, and as a result, you keep thinking, you keep doubting, you keep questioning, right? So this is important. And let's say some people, no matter what happens, they always end up doubting, questioning the situation. Let's say you are talking to someone and another third person sees this. And that third person probably in his or her mind will think that they were talking about me. They were plotting against me. They are up to something, right? So that way they keep thinking. They think that the whole universe rotates around them. They are the center, right? So that type of mentality you can see. They think that other people are out to get them. They think that these situations, they are out to get them, right? So everything revolves around them. That's that egocentric mind, right? And it could be a sign of mental illness as well. Mental illness, it might appear like this. They think that everybody is talking about them. Everybody is out to get them. Every situation revolves around them. That way they think that the whole universe revolves around them. They are the center. That egocentric mind, right? So those type of mentalities, those type of behaviors you can see. Then another thing is that when it comes to relationships, if your spouse, if your girlfriend, boyfriend, if they are doubting too much, then it's a bad sign. I remember one time I attended few years ago, I guess. One time I attended a session on mental health or something like that. And the psychologist that conducted the session, he was saying about doubt in relationships. He was saying that doubt in relationship is a bad sign. You know that it's not gonna work when somebody is doubting their partner, right? You're on the phone, you call someone, they are doubting whether this person is having an affair. You receive a text, they are doubting, and they try to hack into your social media accounts, trying to see what's going on, right? So this way, doubting can really become a hindrance to your personal life as well, right? Sometimes those situations might be accurate. Sometimes the partner is having an affair, but still you don't have to doubt them all the time. If there is a secret, of course, time will reveal it, right? You have to give it some time. No secret will be there, will be a secret forever, right? So without that trust, it's really difficult to continue a relationship even, right? So you can see this type of behavior in certain people's mind, and it appears like knowledge. That's the main issue here. It appears like knowledge. And when it comes to the practice, Buddha is saying, unarisen doubts to arise and arisen doubts to expand. What's the reason? Careless attention. You attend to things carelessly, right? That's the whole idea. When you attend to things, when you attend to thoughts, when you attend to certain situations, you attend to them carelessly, right? So due to that carelessness, your mind creates certain imaginary situations. Your mind creates doubts. Your mind creates questions. Your mind starts going on this whole thought process. There's a very nice metaphor given by Milarepa about attending to things carelessly. He says, if you throw a stone at a dog, that dog will chase after the stone. That's the behavior of a dog. You throw a stone at a dog and it will chase after the stone. It will try to bite the stone. This tried to harm me. Something like that. But if you throw a stone at a lion, that animal, due to probably high intelligence, that animal will always look towards the source of it. You won't be able to throw a stone at a lion for the second time, right? So that's the metaphor given by Milarepa. When you attend to things carelessly, you behave like a dog. When you attend to things carefully, You behave like a lion. You turn your attention towards the source of it. The source is not the outside. Source is not the other people. Source is not the other situations. Instead, the very source is within you. These mind-made objects, right? So that type of a training is encouraged. And especially when it comes to daily situations, you have to be careful. Because in daily situations only, these thoughts proliferate, these doubts proliferate, these questions proliferate, right? Questioning, doubting mind, it happens in daily encounters mainly. When you go to sitting, when you go to walking, you know that this is not good. You try to, not encourage it. But in daily situations, you attend to them carelessly, and as a result, you end up doubting, questioning, thinking a lot. So we have to be careful with that. We have to know, and that as long as you are alive, as long as you are awake, you have to practice. Many people, they think meditation as sitting. They don't even like the walking process. They say walking is for exercise, sitting is the meditation. Sitting is the practice. But you don't know how many hours you can sit in a day. Maximum you can do couple of hours if you are living a busy life. That's the best you can do. The rest of the time may be like, 15, 16 hours per day. You are doing various other activities, right? So in them, if you attend to them carelessly, and if you try to attend to those 2 formal meditation hours carefully, that won't get you anywhere. You have to make sure that you meditate as long as you are awake. That's important, especially when it comes to like something like this. Doubting, questioning, thinking mind, right? So that's important that you attend to your activities carefully, and how to come to the root of it. Yes, instead of going along with the thoughts, instead of encouraging the doubts, questions, how to bring your attention to the root of it. That we can simply introduce as a bodily sensation. For example, today during the activity, drinking a glass of water, that we try to keep our attention with the sensations at your palm, the texture, temperature of the glass, then maybe drinking sensations, temperature that you feel in your mouth, right? All those things. Simply being with that activity. That we can identify as the root. Instead of thinking mind, you bring your attention to the present moment here and now. You ground yourself in the body. Simply identify a bodily sensation as the source, as the root, right? Instead of going with the proliferating thoughts, you bring your attention to a bodily sensation. That's how you can attend to things carefully. And when I say a bodily sensation, you have to know that you can't force yourself with this. You can't force yourself too much. If you force yourself too much, then you end up with a headache. You end up frustrated, right? So that's not the way. Instead, gracefully you have to do. Allow the activity to happen. Allow the things to continue while you gracefully bringing your attention to a bodily sensation. That's the whole idea. That's the whole practice, right? So When Buddha says careless attention, that's simply going along with the thoughts, doubts, questions. How to attend carefully is simply to be grounded in your body. Thoughts can happen, but more or less you are grounded in your body. Activities can happen, but more or less you are grounded in the activity, right? That's the whole approach. That's the whole idea. And we have to teach this to children as well, because these new generations, Gen Z, they say, the people up to 2010. And then another generation is their generation Alpha, the people after 2010. So those children, they are with the technology. They are in the virtual worlds, right? Thinking is encouraged. They live in fantasies, virtual realities. So those generations you can really see, they question, they doubt a lot. And couple of days ago, we did this very nice activity in one of the children's sessions. And that activity is called First Thought, Best Thought. That's the activity. You don't think too much. You simply do. Instead of think before you jump, we encourage the opposite. Jump first and then think. Right? So it appears like some kind of a foolishness. You jump and then think, right? But that can really encourage you to, live your life. You don't miss out on opportunities. You simply grab them. Even I have seen a movie a long time ago, maybe like 15, 20 years ago. That was called Jim Carrey, Yes Man. Some of you might remember. So that was a person who doubts a lot, questioning, doubting, thinking. And he doesn't grab the opportunities that life is given. Life offered. Right? So this person continues for a while and he end up frustrated. He end up, depressed due to this behavior. And he attends to a workshop, and there the whole message was to be a yes man. Yes man. Yes man. That's the very idea. And the facilitator, he confronts him and asks, can you become a yes man? Then the guy replies, let me think about it. whole becoming a yes man, even he can't answer. Then again, forcefully shouting at him, asking, can you become a yes man? I'll do, but I'm not sure. Right? So that type of a doubting, questioning mind. Finally, somehow he decides, okay, I'll become a yes man. Whatever the life brings me, I'll say yes. Right? And he goes out. Someone comes to him and asks, do you need a lift? Then he had a car, but you have to say yes, no? So he says yes. Right? And goes with that person. Ended up going somewhere, enjoying the night, right? Something like that. So you can see the whole perspective changes. Simply grabbing the opportunities that's given to them, given to you, right? But that doesn't mean that it should become destructive. You see what life brings you, and of course you have a choice. Don't go and grab an opportunity to do drugs. That's not the idea. Instead, simply at least explore what's given to you without doubting and questioning, without keeping a distance. You go into the situation, you talk to the people and see what's happening, right? That type of approach is encouraged. Otherwise, we do a whole lot of thinking, and that very thinking, doubting, can create a lot of difficulties in our life, and we miss out on life. We don't get to live our life, right? And you do live probably like, let's say, 60, 80 years, and you keep thinking, you keep planning in your mind. That's all you do. You keep doubting situations. That's all you do, right? So that way, I don't think it's helpful. That's the very idea. And when it comes to the practice, let's say I earlier said that you bring your attention to a bodily sensation. You continue your practice with that, and not begin for a beginner. This is okay. This is what they have to do. But let's say when you mature in your practice, at a certain point, you can see another phase of doubting. What is this phase of doubting? You can see that the primary object, the bodily sensation, the breathing, the steps that we have selected, that very primary object, it becomes secondary at a certain time. You practiced meditation prioritizing this very object, but at a certain point of your practice, that very object becomes secondary, right? It becomes equal to other things that appears in the present moment. For example, let's say thoughts, sounds, bodily pains, aches, certain planning processes, memories, all those things become equal. We can say flux, or we can say flow state, something like that, right? At a certain point of your practice, your meditation, you can see this change happening. And when that change happens, many people start doubting. Doubting personalities, they start doubting. That's the correct way to put it. If you have that type of a personality, even in the practice at a certain point, you keep doubting, you keep questioning. What is happening in my meditation? Am I cursed? The practice doesn't work for me now. I used to meditate fine, but now the whole thing becomes chaos, something like that, right? But the whole idea of the practice is at a certain point of your practice, the whole thing becomes chaos, right? It becomes a flux. It becomes a flow state. In Zen, even they have this word flow state, right? So when that happens in your meditation, you have to understand, or you have to have the faith, or you have to have the confidence in you, knowing that this is the very progress in the practice, right? When you mature in your meditation, this happens, and you have to accept this. That's the whole idea. Otherwise, if you keep doubting, if you keep questioning, then that very doubting can becomes a hindrance to your practice, right? So you can see it's the personality traits. If you are a doubting person, at this phase you start doubting a lot, right? If you have some other prominent hindrance in your mind, then that becomes the problem, right? So for doubting people, this becomes a real problem, right? At a certain phase of your meditation, you keep doubting, you keep questioning, you don't accept this change in your practice. But that change has to happen. That's the whole idea. Because let's say if you prioritize a single object for the rest of your practice or for the rest of your life, then you won't be able to go closer to Nibbana. Why you are still prioritizing a single object, right? The whole Nibbana or the change that will happen is simply letting go of these priorities. You have no prioritization in your mind, and as a result, everything becomes secondary. I remember one person was sharing an experience recently. That person was saying, earlier I used to feel the breath, but now I simply feel a flux in my practice. And initially I was doubtful. Initially it felt like what's happening. But now amidst this flux, I feel a certain stillness behind it. Right? So that stillness is simply, it makes everything secondary. All the objects, right? Instead of the movie, you get to see the screen behind that movie. That's the real source, right? Usually we are lost in the movie. When we attend carelessly, we get lost in the movie. But if you attend carefully, if you practice that for a while, then you get to see the real source. The real source is the screen, not the movie that appears on it, right? So that very stillness that person experiences is simply everything becomes secondary. And that's good progress towards Nibbana. That's good progress in your practice, right? So that's the whole idea. So in this phase, it's a real doubting phase. It's a doubting phase. That's natural, but somehow we have to go through this phase and develop our practice. And for the people who are at that level, we have to say, have the confidence. Your practice is always moving forward. There's no moving backward in your practice. How can you move backward? Simply doubting, questioning the whole practice, right? That very doubting, questioning will move you backward. Otherwise, if you can simply continue with the practice, then of course, that's progress. You have to have the faith, you have to have the trust that this is moving forward. This is progress. That's the very idea, right? So in your practice, you can see certain phases where the doubting, questioning becomes prominent. And during those phases, maybe participating in a discussion, sharing your experience with a teacher, those things help, right? That will be a little encouragement for your practice. And when the teacher confirms that this is the progress, then with that trust, you can go and continue, right? So when it comes to the path, you have to remember that doubting can become a real hindrance. If you are not doubting, if you have confidence in it, then that's really helpful. No matter what you do, you go on a retreat, you become a monk or nun, right? You can't think about these things too much. If you start thinking about it, if you start doubting, questioning the path, I don't think it will get you anywhere. These things, you simply have to take them and go. That's the very idea. Even there's this one incident from the life of Jesus. He preached good, right? According to those societies, he preached good. He preached people to, do good things, right? So whatever the teaching, whatever the practice, always it's helpful for society, for the society. True. But at the end of his life, right, on the cross, there was a great doubt that arise. Father, have you forsaken me? That was the doubt. If he could end his life, if he could end that passage without that doubt, without that question, then it would be a great ending. But at the last moment, he questioned his whole belief system, right? It was a great doubt that has arisen in his mind. Father, have you forsaken me? Right? So even in our practice, we can see at a critical moment, doubts come. Right? If you, let's say you are deathbed, right? You have been practicing, you have been preparing yourself for this very experience. But the deathbed could be painful, extreme, excruciating pain, full of thoughts, questions, doubts. So if you give in to those questions, doubts, then even you, after practicing for many decades, might doubt the whole thing, might question the whole thing, right? So question a doubt is not good at such a situation, right? So you can see this is a real hindrance, especially in this new age, where we get a lot of information, where the thinking is encouraged, where this appears like knowledge, right? So that's the idea. You can experiment with this, you can practice with this and see how you can realize what's happening in your mind. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Bante, for that valuable teaching and a great discussion. Now, as we come to the end of our discourse discussion session, I would like to open the floor for you. If you have any questions for Bante, or if you want to share your practice, and also for any kind of final thoughts on our session today, it's your time. Please take the opportunity. I would like to share something came to my mind about what you have mentioned, Bante. Like especially when you say that after being practicing for many years at that if you have not been careful, you might end up with doubting even your own practice. Like this, something like this came to my mind because I've heard, even maybe not to me so much, but I've heard some people kind of doubt their practice or being a good person, maybe by saying that, for example, if something like if some tragic happens, let's say, if something bad happens to a practitioner, like naturally they tend to think that how would that possible? I've been meditating, I've been doing only good deeds, like in my entire lifetime. How would that possible? I felt like that goes under these teachings of Buddha. And to me, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Bante, but I thought it's just attending not carefully for that thought process.
Yes, so that's an insightful idea. As you mentioned, no matter how long you practice, maybe at the end, you might end up questioning, doubting the whole thing. So your many years, many decades of practice goes to waste in the last moment because of that very doubting questioning. I am not saying that it's fully wasted, but that's a crucial moment, no? Deathbed, right? And dying won't be easy. We can talk about dying, right, in the discussions, but you have to really go through that experience and see what type of experience that is, right? So the nearest we can take in our day-to-day experiences would be something like, extreme fever. When such a situation happens, when you are extremely ill, sick, you can see it's out of your control, right? You are feverish, your mind is out of your control, you get these, what do you call, compulsive thoughts, things like that, right? So that whole feverish experience would be something similar. So you lose the control, you get the idea, you lose the control, you have no longer, you can control the mind, right? So how to attend carefully when you have no control? That's the question, right? So if you wait till your deathbed and try to attend carefully, that's not gonna work. What we have to do is we have to practice for many years, many decades, make sure that the practice takes over. That's the whole idea, right? You do many years, many decades of practice, and that very practice takes over in a difficult situation. For example, let's say if you have trained yourself not to proliferate thoughts or not to get lost in the movie, if you have trained yourself to, notice the screen that's behind the movie, notice the route that's behind this whole thing, right? If you have trained yourself like that, then that very training will come into action even during such extreme situations, right? That's the only hope. Otherwise, if you try to attend carefully at your deathbed, that's not going to happen. We have to die and see how it truly goes. But that might be something real. You lose the control of this whole process. You lose the control of your body. You lose the control of your mind. That's the whole struggle at a deathbed, right? You are in excruciating pain probably, right? So when such things come, naturally we doubt. Naturally we question. We question the whole life. We question the whole practice that happens, right? So what you can do is make sure when you are not sick, when you're not dying, you have to make sure that you practice. You continue it for many years, many decades, and that practice will come to save you. Dhamma will come and be your savior at that moment. That's the best approach, I guess.
Thank you, Bhante. We have a few moments if anyone wants to share any thought. Bhante, I have a report. I'm going to read it out. I believe this is a reflection report of a meditation practice. I sat on a thin cushion in a cross-legged position with my back straight and eyes gently closed. I didn't try to suppress any thought or inner voices that appeared in my mind. Instead, I simply allowed them to arise and continue watching them. As I observed the present moment, I became aware of how my tongue touched my palate, how my teeth lightly met, and how the breath moved above the palate. The breath was calm and short, appearing and disappearing gently, After 3 to 5 breaths, it seemed to fade away for a while. I couldn't tell how long exactly, and then it reappeared as a very subtle sensation, like a soft touch inside my nostrils. I felt a few gentle strokes of breath, and again it disappeared. Meanwhile, I thought inner chatter, and imaginary images rose and faded away on their own. I also heard surrounding sound, people's voices and hum of the fan and other small noises. Amid all these sensations, sounds, thoughts, and even small bodily discomforts like itching, I noticed a calm state within me, silent, warm, and full of subtle energy. The end of the report, Bhante.
Yes, now let's say when you observe the thoughts mindfully in your, let's say, sitting, walking, you get to observe the thoughts. And although it might not match with the initial instructions, simply being mindful of the thought processes, they are no longer thoughts. They simply becomes a part of your practice, but you have to understand that there's a difference between thinking thoughts and simply observing the happening thoughts. There's a difference. We don't know that difference, but in our practice, we get to experience that. Thinking thoughts, it happens in the darkness, you know. You are not mindful, you simply keep thinking. These compulsive thoughts come to you, and you end up proliferating them, right? That happens, that we have experienced for many years, many decades. But in the meantime, you can see happening thoughts under the light of mindfulness. That's what you have experienced in your practice. When you are in the first part, when you are in the thinking thoughts part, you don't have the complaint about them. We don't complain because we don't know, right? But when it comes to happening thoughts part, usually people come and complain. They say that there are a lot of thoughts in my mind. They say thoughts keep coming to my mind. But they don't know that very complaint comes as a result of their practice. Right? They have developed mindfulness. As a result, they have noticed the thoughts, and now they are complaining about it. Right? Earlier, your mind was full of thoughts in the darkness, and you didn't complain. Right? So thinking thoughts is one thing. You are encouraging, and the happening thoughts under the light of mindfulness, something else. Right? And there's a gray area in between them. Let's say it might start as a happening thought. You see the thoughts happening under the light of mindfulness, but at a certain point of this thought, you start encouraging it. You keep adding to it. There's effort behind that, right? So that difference you have to identify. There's always a gray area. You can't figure out whether this is a happening thought or whether this is a thinking thought. That's okay. That gray area, you have to experiment with it for many times and figure out your own balance. But understand there are two types. And if you come and complain about happening thoughts, then that's not correct. Because it's a part of your practice, a valuable part. Thinking thoughts, of course, we know that it's wrong. We don't encourage that in the practice, right? So try to understand the difference between those two. Try to experiment with it and see.
Thank you so much, Bhante. Now we have come to the end of our session today, but I noticed a few of you joined just now. I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, I hope I didn't confuse. I thought I made sure that I mentioned the time change on my notifications, but if you have missed that, I'm really sorry. For those who have just joined, since we have a time change in North America, so now our starting time would be 6:30 Central Daylight Saving Time. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm really not sure how to say that. Chatura, is that how you say it?
Central Standard Time. Yes, that's correct.
Oh,
Yes.
Central Standard Time. It's 6:30 now. So if you have missed this session, I will share the link to the recording with you. And I'm really sorry about that. All right. So I would like to take this opportunity to extend my gratitude as well as your gratitude on behalf of everyone to our teacher for his valuable guidance and teachings as always. And thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for your presence, for your practice and your kind participation. And we will meet again next week, 6:30 Central Standard Time. Until then, take care.